On Sunday night, the Miami Hurricanes will try to slow down the national runners-up from a season ago with one of the top running back duos in the entire country. Here's what needs to happen for the Canes to start 1-0.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. He is Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive lineman and co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes. On this episode, we'll talk about if the ACC doesn't go to 9 games, there is an alternative for that conference and non-conference schedule. We will break down Alabama heading into Florida State. That's also happening this Saturday with the Crimson Tide as 13.5-point favorites. But let's start, KG, with Notre Dame visiting Miami with the Fighting Irish 2.5-point favorites. A lot of road favorites on the slate this coming weekend. Let's start here, Kenton. What has to happen for Miami to slow down a rushing attack that everyone's talking about with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price as one of the best-looking duos in the entire nation?
I think what has to happen there is simple. It is all about how well your defensive linemen create penetration. That is the biggest thing that we're looking at in this game. You're talking about a defense that is that last year at least was a 4-2-5, and we're expecting some scheme changes this year. But the biggest thing that I think needs to happen, not a want to, not a it would be nice to, you have to make Jeremiah Love run east and west and not north and south. At the end of the day, if he sees the hole, with Notre Dame, they run much more of a power scheme than a zone scheme per se. And so the difference between the two is this. In a power scheme or gap scheme, as some people will call it, it is designed in a way where you're going to see a lot more combination blocking to climb to the next level. You're going to see a lot more pullers and all that type of thing, as opposed to a situation where the entire offensive line moves one direction or moves the other direction, or they go, wide outside, or they kind of keep a path inside and let the back pick between a variety of holes. Wherever you see something, make it happen. In the zone scheme, penetration ain't necessarily always the greatest thing, because you could be, just creating a wider cutback lane or whatever the case may be. But against a gap scheme, penetration ruins everything. Quick question, Donno. Where's a pulling guard going to go if you push the guard front side into his lap? What's he going to do?
I don't know. What's he going to do?
Exactly. He's stuck. He's got nothing he can do. He's got to figure out, wait a minute, I was supposed to be climbing in this hole to kick out the Mike linebacker here, but now the center's getting blown up by Mesidor. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What's supposed to happen here? So it's a situation where penetration, reestablishing the line of scrimmage is not a want to. I'm a recruiter, so I'm going to talk to y'all in recruiter terms for a second. It's not a want to have, nice to have for this role. It's a must have if you're auditioning for the role of team who unseats a top 10 opponent in week 1.
Yeah, Miami's got a good-looking defensive front to start the season. I think the biggest question that I have is the defensive tackle depth behind their top 3 guys. Justin Scott, who's a former 5-star recruit heading into his second year. I expect him to play a major role in the interior. Ahmad Moten, who's Miami's most experienced homegrown talent at defensive line. They also brought in an experienced transfer, David Blay from Louisiana Tech. So the depth behind them in the interior is yet to be determined. But when it comes to edge rushers, and some of Miami's edge rushers can kick inside. They have that positional versatility like Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Armando Blunt has a lot of size as well. But Miami in the edge rotation with those guys, plus Hayden Lowe, Malik Bryant, Marquise Lightfoot, they have a lot of bodies that can rush the passer and also penetrate in the run game. Now, in terms of defensive philosophy for Miami, wouldn't you, at least as long as it may work for you, would you key the run game and stack the box and challenge C.J. Carr, Notre Dame's first-time starting quarterback? Do you really challenge him to beat you, because it'd be one thing if you allow Love and Price to beat you. I mean, put the game in CJ Carr's hands and see what he can do through the air.
If you're talking about, should they stack the box, it is tantamount to coaching malpractice if they do not.
Yeah.
Whatever they have, you need to stack the box. There shouldn't be a question about, oh, well, what if they come out in 10 personnel, meaning one back, no tight ends, all that. Okay, great. We're still going to put an extra body in the box. We will always have one more in the box than they can block. You know why I would do that, Donno? The answer is simple here. If we're looking at who am I more likely to get beat by? First-year quarterback with a first-year wide receiver one, with, great house and company. They showed up big time last year, but Carr wasn't throwing them the ball.
Nope.
So I'm going to count on, this offensive line that's experienced and this running back that's a Heisman favorite. I'm going to count on them being equivalent or worse than a passing game that has a new quarterback, new wide receiver one, and, nobody who has proven himself over a long haul of a season. Guys have proven themselves in spurts in that Notre Dame wide receiver room. I have not seen anybody who you could look at and say definitively throughout the season, you knew this guy, book him for 60 yards a game, book him for 80 yards a game, because that's the type of player he is. We didn't see that. So if we're talking about how I would say, where is the point where you say Notre Dame cannot beat me like this? You can't beat me running the ball if I have anything to say about it. If CJ Carr goes out there and throws for 350, you tip your cap and you say, hey, hell of a game by the rip. He's going to be something special. But what I don't want to see is the back of number 4's jersey, is the back of that Golden Dome running into the end zone and doing this in the end zone. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that.
No, sir.
You know what I mean?
No, sir. All right. So on the flip side, when Miami has the ball, I'm cautiously optimistic that Miami is also going to be able to run the football in this game, Kenton, behind an offensive line that I think might be the very best in the entire country. Everybody has them in the top 10. And, 3 running backs who all should be serviceable to excellent in this game, with Mark Fletcher at 225 pounds, Jordan Lyle at 205, and Shamar Brown at 220. So they pack a load in the backfield behind a physical offensive line. And Miami's offensive line, for what it's worth, does have considerable size on Notre Dame's defensive line. So they're going to lean behind that group heavily and try to run the football. And we'll get to the Carson Beck aspect in a minute. But I think this could be a game where both sides can have success running the ball, Miami included.
I mean, this game is not going to be one that I'm expecting a track meet on grass. I'm expecting this to look like the original Catholics versus convicts. That's what I'm expecting this to look like, right? You didn't see Jimmy Johnson and Snellenberger saying, hey, Kozar, we're going to need 500 this game or else we're cooked. That wasn't the case. I'm expecting it to look like that because these are two teams where the running back rooms are much more established than the quarterback and pass catching rooms for both teams. And so Miami, I look at in the very same degree in terms of y'all are big up front, big dudes. Your backs, I mean, you just mentioned 645 pounds of running
math. Dang.
You said 220, 205, and 225, right? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's 640. 670 actually. I'm sorry. So 650.
I'm not going to question it.
650. I'm sorry. 650. That's the final answer. Anyway, lock it in. But the reality is this: you just mentioned 3 guys that those are NFL size backs. 205 is not a small back for the NFL, and you're the scat back in this backfield. So you're expecting this team to say, you know what? We can 3-yard and cloud of dust our way to a win here. Because, again, I don't see a world where CJ Carr comes out and just says, hey, let's try that secondary out. Malachi Fields is a fantastic receiver. He's a big body. He's a wonderful go-up-and-get-it guy. When it comes to him and contested catches, he does it like few do it, and he moves very well for his size. But passing games are not just about how well does my receiver get open. It's also about how well does my quarterback know where he's going to be. How well can we anticipate, okay, when he runs his corner route, it's going to be right here in this moment. And it's one thing to run it in practice time and time again when you know that defensive end has to run by you, tap you on the hip, and keep going. It's a difference when Ruben Bain is coming at you and saying, oh, brother, me and you, may I have this dance, young man? May I have this dance? Because me and you going to be, we're going to be slow dancing all night if your offensive line lets me. It's a different, very different experience. So this is a game where, again, the running games of both teams will be important. And Miami has one of the better and more powerful, even if we take away the pass blocking aspect, just simply run blocking alone. You say they're a top 10 offensive line in the nation. If you talk run blocking alone, they'd have to be top 5, maybe top 3 at worst.
Yeah, especially behind the right side because, CeCe Mauigoa at right tackle, the dude loves to get downfield. And Inez Cooper, I think, is one of the more underrated run blockers in the country. But what happens when Miami throws the football? That's what I want to get into next. And listen, on both sides, obviously, Notre Dame's defensive secondary is proven. And we saw what they did last season. Miami's defensive secondary has a lot of new quality bodies, but they've got to prove it this Sunday. But is Carson Beck going to be able to find success through the air? You want to keep it locked right here. We'll also break down Florida State hosting Alabama when we come back on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is here. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And guys, this is what I love. These days we have so many different accounts and so many different expenditures. Monarch puts that all in one place and gives me amazing insights. So I realize how much I'm spending and overspending on things like food delivery and streaming services. So be like me and don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. We're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, football season is here. College is back. The NFL is almost here. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Folks, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Saturdays and Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. So we're talking Notre Dame, 2.5-point favorites at Miami this Sunday night at Hard Rock Stadium. Now, Kenton, as we've seen, and with Notre Dame having studs like Christian Gray in their defensive secondary, it can be very hard to throw the football against the Fighting Irish. They were 4th nationally last season in passing yards allowed. We all remember, this is partially an indictment on Penn State, but Penn State did not complete a single pass to a wide receiver in the national semifinal against Notre Dame last year. Now, I do think on the Miami side, maybe the most critical weapon in this game, and I just had a conversation about this earlier today on Locked On Canes with Jason from Rock Boys Football, who brought up a great point. This might have to be the Elijah Lofton game, like when it comes to Miami's tight ends, right? That he can really be Carson Beck's best friend to help get that passing game going.
He's going to have to find somebody. The key to a great passing game, it starts, the foundation, really the baseline for even a decent passing game is you have to have one of two things. Either one guy that is your security blanket or multiple guys that okay, when we run this concept, it's going to be open right here. I don't have a go-to guy, but we have a few go-to concepts where we know it don't matter. We can run this against cover 1, cover 2, cover 6, cover 4, cover 3. It's going to be open right here in this spot. It's going to be, somebody is going to be open right at this time. That's important because Elijah Lofton could be that guy. He could establish himself as the guy right away. Hey, it's me. I'm the guy. I'm the one that you want to find. I'm your blankie. You know, quarterbacks are a lot like little children, right? They're petulant. They're annoying. They got to have their, I'm sorry, wrong part. But children like their blankie, so do quarterbacks. They like that warmth to tuck them in at night and say, when I'm in trouble, I know I can go to my blankie. I know I can find me a guy that's going to get open and he's going to be a matchup nightmare, whether it be by his speed on the outside, whether it be by his releases, whether it be by his route running. And in Lofton's case, it could be the combination of all of those with size. A guy that, you know, too big for safeties, too fast for linebackers. What do you do with him? Not to mention, Lofton is a guy that, you know, we talked about when Miami was having some running back struggles. He was playing there for a bit and look good. So we expect him to be good after the catch. Now the question is, can we get him to the catch? Can we get him open and get him the ball if you are Miami?
Yeah, Miami's offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson, recently said about Elijah Lofton, the ball just tends to find him, was the quote. It is so, you know, they line him up in a number of different ways. Kenton, as you mentioned, I don't necessarily expect him to line up too much at running back in this game, but it's something Miami has in their back pocket. But line him up in the slot, line him up in line, line him up wide. I think we'll see a lot of different looks, and we'll see if the football finds him, like Shannon Dawson says. You know, you guys won't be too surprised to hear me call my shot. I'm going to go for a close win for Miami in this one. The over-under for this game, Kenton, is 49.5, which is not a very high number, but I'm leaning to the under. Part of that being it could be a rainy game. Now, predicting the weather in South Florida 4 days out, like that can change hour to hour. It's a fool's errand, but for what it's worth, 70% chance of rain on Sunday evening. So, you know, that's going to only amplify the line of scrimmage battles. I'm going to go 24-20 Miami. What say you?
Donno, the skies could be clear and bluer than your wonderful eyes, okay? It could be 85 degrees and not a breeze in sight. And I'm not just leaning toward the under. I'm standing on the under. I'm jumping on the under. Yeah. I'm doing the Irish jig. Let me do the river dance on the under. Maybe hit some electric slide on there as well. The reality is this is a game where we all know the quickest way to put up points is via the passing game. And these are two teams whose passing game, I think, still has a little bit of time in the oven. I think still needs to do a little bit more cooking before you know whether or not this thing is fully ready or whether or not they are fully ready from game one. I think it's going to take some time. And so if we're talking about the game and who we think could be the X factors here, I think the special teams game is going to be vital. I think whoever wins the field position battle in terms of winning hidden yardage via punts, I think it's going to be whoever does a better job of containing returners, whoever does a better job of not making the crucial mistake. Because to me, if Carson, the biggest difference and the reason why I'm going to make my pick here is because I believe that one team has one unit that I think can force the other team into mistakes a little bit better than their counterparts. And with that in mind, I'm going to go with Notre Dame winning by 2 because I think that defensive backfield is going to force a pivotal turnover in a moment where it's like, man, we could have just kept it going on the running game. We could have just kept it going. But I don't think that Mario Cristobal can stop outsmarting himself. And I think that this is going to be one of those moments where the running game ain't great. It ain't crushing it, but it's doing good enough. And then he says, let's put the ball in Carson Beck's head a lot this drive. And that pivotal turnover turns out to be the dagger. I wouldn't be surprised either way this game turns out. But if somebody told me I had to, you know, the same way we have to read these ads for all these gambling sites and whatnot, if I had to get in on the action, I would take Notre Dame by 2 points.
All right, well, let's talk Bama at Florida State when we come back. Now, in case Alabama needed any bulletin board material for this game, every chance you look, they're getting something from Florida State quarterback Thomas Castellanos. First, it was Nick Saban is not there to save them, which he doubled down on. And then Castellanos also recently said, you know, he's about to go up against a very highly touted Alabama defense, but he said The toughest defense he's going to see all year is the one he faces in practice. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. And we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And thanks for helping us out. All right, Kenton Gibbs, host of Locked On Wolfpack. I'm Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes here on Locked On ACC. Kenton, it's Alabama, according to Pro Football Focus, for what that's worth, predicted to have the number one defense in college football this year. But apparently it's not the toughest D that Thomas Castellanos is going to see all year. How do you see Florida State's offense? And from the conversations we've had with Brian Smith from Locked On Seminoles, very questionable offensive line depth. Now, since this is the first game of the season, we assume this is the healthiest they're going to be. Maybe your starters are enough to open up some holes and protect your quarterback a little bit. But how do you expect Thomas Castellanos and Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White and company to be able to attack that Alabama D?
Donno, you know that I fancy myself to be a religious man, okay? I'm not a man of the cloth, but I do fancy myself to sending up a little bit of timber here and there. And I have been praying with everything in me. I've been the hardest prayer warrior that Florida State has, that Thomas Castellanos can prove all of us wrong, including me, okay? Because I'm deeply worried about this team, Donald. I'm not even talking about from a depth standpoint, rather. Even when we look at top end, Overton from Bama is disgusting on that edge.
Yeah.
He is not good. That young man is borderline great out there. And so I'm not worried about your depth. I'm worried about your best guy. Bring your baddest to the floor and let's see what's going to happen here. I'm concerned, Donno. I'm concerned. But if I were to say, what is Florida State's path to success? I would say lean in to the Gus Malzahn offense, which leans in to Thomas Castellanos' strengths. And what is that? Yeah. Keep the pocket moving. Give him options to where the reads are simplified. Cut off half the field. Say, hey, we need to worry about that backside. Just worry about we're rolling this way. These are your reads right here. 1, 2, 3. And if you don't see nothing, take off. But Donno, I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned because I like Squirrel Wright. I like Deuce Robinson. I like him. I really do. I'm not sure that we're living in a world where, all of the bulletin board material and fun fact, we've talked about this before on this show, but if you haven't listened in the past, I was the guy that Thomas Castellanos doubled down to about the, you basically you gave him an opportunity to walk it back and take the high road. And instead of taking that, he double paved the road he was on. It's even worse. I gave him the opportunity just to say, hey, I'm a confident guy. That's just part of who I am. And he instead was like, well, we still know what I said. I'm just sitting there like, oh boy. So, I would love for this Florida State team to prove me wrong and break my grandmother's heart, because we all know Granny is a big Alabama fan. She's a huge Alabama fan. I hope that he breaks Granny's heart. But you don't have to give this team bulletin board material every time you step in front of a mic. At this point, I'm starting to get concerned. Norvell, why do you keep letting him talk during media availability? I understand not wanting to put a muzzle on your star quarterback, but sometimes you got to sit a guy down and say, hey, listen, we believe in ourselves. We believe we're a great team. There's nothing wrong with calling your shot, but there is something wrong with disrespecting your opponent. And at this point, you've gone beyond calling your shot multiple times. There's nothing wrong with bigging up your defense, saying that this is the best defense I'll play all year. There's nothing wrong with that internally, in-house. When you get outside the house and they say, how do you expect to play this team? We're going to keep it real PC. I know 2025 is a different world, and now politically correct is seen as a pejorative. I don't give a rat's behind. If I'm the head coach in Tallahassee, I'm saying, good, we keeping it extra PC. You're going to go up to that stand, and when they ask you, what do you think about all of those players from Alabama that are going to, hey, it's an Alabama defense. They're going to be well coached. They're going to have talent. At the end of the day, it's not about them. It's about us. It's about how we execute. It's about how we tackle our assignment. It's about, are we aligned in the right way? And I trust Coach Malzahn. I trust Coach Norvell to put us in positions to succeed. Boom! There you go. You bigged up your team without disrespecting anybody. But every time he steps in front of a mic. And another thing, why are they always wearing those fedoras down there? It looks stupid. Bear Bryant, he wasn't a real bear. He was a human. Bears are way stronger than him. What are we doing?
It's like something he would say. Now, of course, when Alabama has the ball, boy, did they have talented offensive players. Ryan Williams at receiver, Jam Miller at running back. Now, they do breaking in a new starting quarterback. Now, both teams are, but, Castellanos has started at Boston College, and he's played for Gus Malzahn before at UCF. Where Alabama is breaking in their new starting quarterback, Ty Simpson. How do you think Florida State is going to fare defensively? They should have a pretty good defensive line, Kenton, but this is going to be a big challenge.
I'm very worried about this defense as well. I am. And I know people are going to hear this and say, well, you're worried about everything with Florida State. It's game one, and they were 2-10 last year. I don't know why you wouldn't expect me to be worried. Well, Kenton, they got a lot of transfers in this year. Well, didn't they have a lot of transfers in last year? Wasn't that kind of the problem? Wasn't that kind of the issue? So I'm worried here because they do, on paper, have a very good team, very good defense, all those things. You cleaned house in terms of not only your players, but also your coaching staff. Virtually everybody's new. Virtually everybody is new. And so you're hoping that in one offseason, everybody has meshed and gelled in a significant way, because let's be real about this thing now. You're playing the cover athlete for college football 26 and Ryan Williams.
That's right.
You're not, this is not just some, if Jeremiah Smith were never born, he would be the talk of the town in terms of young receivers. There wouldn't be anybody else. I think there's Jeremiah Smith, and then there's a decent sized gap, and then there's Ryan Williams. In terms of these young pup receivers, nobody else is in their stratosphere. So I'm deeply worried for this Florida State defense, because I look at them and I say, yes, you bought in some good talent out of the portal. However, we've seen this story play out in the past. I don't know, about 360 some odd days ago, we have played these games before. And I hope that it ends up differently for Florida State. I have a very sneaky suspicion that this one in particular will not.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to cover the 13.5. I'm going something like I'm going to say like 38-13 for Alabama. It's about a 25-point difference. You know what, Kenton? I can only do math in the context of gambling. You give me a word problem with like a VIG and I can solve it. That's the only way I can do math. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think it's going to be particularly close, keeping in mind Florida State has done such a good job keeping their facility basically shut down since practice has started, that there is an element of unpredictability. But I think Bama's probably going to win big. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I've got 41-17. I really and truly, I hope, again, if Thomas Castellanos has anybody that is watching to hope that the hate watch goes wrong outside of the city of Tallahassee, it's this guy. Okay. It is I want him to be good so bad. I want this offense to go out there and say, oh, apparently they did need Saban to save them. I would be over the moon to come on here and say that. The problem is, I think that there's been a lot of barking without a lot of biting to kind of back it up and justify it. I'm sorry. From the minute you found out that you weren't prime time, and that was a problem, to then talking about the Saban thing, to then doubling down on that, to then throwing your old teammates under the bus saying, I'm the only one. And I know that we're talking about Castellanos in sequence of, well, this is the entire team. But I think the problem is, Donno, how much did you clean up the culture if the face of your team, if the most recognizable name on your team is continuing to go out there and say things that are objectively borderline ridiculous?
Yeah, it's an issue, no doubt. Well, I know we didn't get to our possible solution outside of non-conference games. Let's table that for the upcoming episode, because it's something I do want to get into. Because Miami's athletic director, who obviously is a part of the meetings and discussions for the conference plans, mentioned an idea maybe outside of going up to 9 conference games. So we'll get into that next time. And by the way, if you're looking for an LSU Clemson conversation, we did have one on Monday. I'm not saying we won't talk about it again before the weekend, but if you're wondering why we didn't get to it on this episode, we extensively covered that matchup on Monday. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check Kenton out at Locked On Wolfpack and at TGIF_ Kenton on X. Follow me at Alex Donno and check out Locked On Canes. And we'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.